Hello everyone, my name is Justin Philip, roll number 604. My assignment topic is a problem related to women and age. The table of contents: domestic violence, gender discrimination, and elderly abuse and neglect. Let us discuss about a famous quote. If we are to fight discrimination and injustice against women, we must start from the home. For it, a woman could cannot be safe in her own house, then she cannot expect to feel safe anywhere. Aisha Terem. The first topic is domestic violence. The domestic violence is explained as domestic violence that the social and legal concept that is the broadest sense refers to any abuse, including physical, emotional, sexual and financial, between the intimate partners often living in the same household. Term is often used specifically to designate the physical assaults upon women by their male partners, but through rarer, the victim may be the male abused by the female partner. That the term may be also used to regarding abuse of both men and women of same-sex partners. അതായത് കൂടുതലും ഡൊമസ്റ്റിക് വയലൻസ് നമ്മുടെ സമൂഹത്തിൽ കണ്ടുവരുന്നത് പുരുഷന്മാർ സ്ത്രീകൾക്കെതിരെയുള്ളതാണ്. കാരണം നമ്മുടെ മെയിൽ ഡൊമിനൻസ് സൊസൈറ്റി ആയതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ എപ്പോഴും സ്ത്രീകളെ അടിച്ചമർത്താനുള്ള പുരുഷന്മാരുടെ ആ ഒരു ആഗ്രഹത്തിന് പുറത്താണ് ഡൊമസ്റ്റിക് വയലൻസ് സംഭവിക്കുന്നത്. Violence against women. The United Nations defines the violence against women as any act of gender-based violence that result in or likely to be result in physical, sexual, mental harm or suffering women, including threat of such act. The coercion and ability of deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or in private life. Violence against women is a social, economic, developmental, legal, educational, human rights and health that is also physical and mental issues. It is the preventable cause of morbidity and mortality in women. UN ഇതിനെ ഡൊമസ്റ്റിക് വയലൻസിനെ വിശേഷിപ്പിക്കുന്നത് ഇത് ഒരാളുടെ ജീവിതം സ്വത്തിനും ഭീഷണിയാകുന്നതായ കാര്യങ്ങൾ എല്ലാം തന്നെ വയലൻസിൻ്റെ കീഴിൽ വരുമെന്നതാണ്. അത് മെൻ്റലാകാം, സോഷ്യലാകാം, എക്കണോമിക്കാകാം, ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റലാകാം, ലീഗലാകാം, എഡ്യൂക്കേഷണലാകാം, എന്ത് കാര്യങ്ങളാണെങ്കിലും. The fact and predisposing factors, that is intimate partner violence and sexual violence, major public health problems and violence of women's human rights. Next is 30. അത് ഇൻറ്റിമേറ്റ് പാർട്ട്ണർ വയലൻസ് ആൻഡ് സെക്ഷൽ വയലൻസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഭാര്യയും ഭർത്താവും അങ്ങനെയുള്ള കുടുംബ വ്യവസ്ഥയിൽ ഉള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളെയാണ് കൂടുതലായി ആ ഒരു ഗണത്തിൽപ്പെടുത്താവുന്നത്. 38% of murders of women are committed by the male intimate partners. Affect women's physical, mental, sexual, reproductive health and may increases the risk of acquiring HIV. The low education, child malnutrition, exposure to the domestic violence against their mothers, harmful use of alcohol, unequal gender norms. Next is attitude accepting violence, male privilege and woman subordinate status. And the next topic is physical and sexual intimate partners violence or non-partner sexual violence. Next we can able to discuss about the causes and consequences of domestic violence, gender disparity and psychiatric morbidity. That is discriminatory gender norms and stereotypes of physical and psychological deterioration and alcohol operate the situational factors. അതായത് നമ്മുടെ സമൂഹത്തിൽ എപ്പോഴും സ്റ്റീരിയോ ടൈപ്പ്, അതായത് പുരുഷന്മാരാണ് സ്ത്രീകളെക്കാട്ടിൽ മുന്നിട്ട് നിൽക്കേണ്ടത് എന്ന ഒരു സ്റ്റീരിയോ ടൈപ്പ് ചിന്താഗതിയിൽ നിന്നാണ് ഈ ഒരു ജെൻഡർ ഡിസ്പാരിറ്റി ഉണ്ടാകുന്നത്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ആൽക്കഹോളിൻ്റെ ഉപയോഗം മൂലം മെൻ്റൽ സ്റ്റേറ്റിനുണ്ടാകുന്ന വ്യത്യാസങ്ങൾ സൈക്കാട്രിക് മോർബിഡിറ്റിയിലേക്ക് നയിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സാഹചര്യം ഉണ്ടാകാറുണ്ട്. നെക്സ്റ്റ് ഈ സോഷ്യോ ഡെമോഗ്രഫിക്, സോഷ്യോ കൾച്ചറൽ ആൻഡ് ഫാമിലി സിറ്റുവേഷൻസ്. That is, the patriarchy has been situated as the main causes of violence, unmarried, separated or divorced status as a stigma, and custom of dowry. ഇപ്പോഴും സമൂഹത്തിൽ ഡിവോഴ്സായവരെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വിവാഹം കഴിക്കാതെ ജീവിക്കുന്നവരെ ഇപ്പോഴും നമ്മുടെ സമൂഹം ഒരു സ്റ്റിഗ്മയായിട്ടാണ് കാണുന്നത്. അതിൽ എന്തോ തെറ്റായ കാര്യമാണ്, അങ്ങനെ ഒരു ചിന്താഗതിയിലാണ് നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നത്. കസ്റ്റം ഓഫ് ഡൊവറി, സ്ത്രീധന നിരോധന നിയമങ്ങൾ വന്നിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ പോലും ഇപ്പോഴും അത് സമൂഹത്തിൽ തുടർന്നു പോകുന്ന ഒരു ദുരാചാരമാണ്. ഹെൽത്ത്, എക്കണോമിക്, ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് റൈറ്റ് ഇഷ്യൂസ്, that is affect the self-esteem and ability to work and make decisions about the fertility. Direct cause is another. The direct cause is loss of income, productivity and health care. Next, the implementation in terms of legal literacy, administrating legal and legal support and services. Next topic is legal ways to forward. That is, എങ്ങനെയാണ് നമുക്ക് ഈ സമൂഹത്തിനെ ഈ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾക്ക് എങ്ങനെ ഒരു പരിഹാരം ഉണ്ടാക്കാം, അതിനെതിരെ എങ്ങനെ നിയമപ്രകാരമായി മുന്നോട്ട് പോകാം എന്നതിനെക്കുറിച്ച്. ജെൻഡർ ബേസ്ഡ് ലെജിസ്ലേഷൻ സർവീസ്, enact and enforce the legislation and develop and implement the policies that promote the gender equality. Surveys should be conducted to evaluation. Financial independence, the improving women's access to paid employment. Capacity building and training, the service providers and law enforcement officers to handle cases of violence against women. Next is prevent occurrence of violence. The early identification of women and children who are experiencing violence, provide the appropriate referral and supports. These are the major objectives we can able to use as a social worker in the field of women development. Next, the woman empowerment is the key factor to conquer these problems. That is woman empowerment. Woman empowerment for a female empowerment may be defined as several ways, including accepting women's point of view or making an effort to seek them, raising the status of women through education, awareness, literacy and training. Next is gender discrimination. The gender discrimination is described as the unequal or disadvantageous treatment inflicted on someone because of they belong to specific gender. It usually the woman who is usually have the face such as gender discrimination. The education and learning opportunities. There is also the lot of discrimination is existing in between the education and learning opportunities. The gender-based literacy rate in India showcases that the wide gap between the men and women. As per 2011 census data, the effective literacy rates were the 82.14% of men and 65.46% of women. The Indian Constitution provides the equal right and privilege for the both men and women. But most women across India don't enjoy these rights. The opportunities guaranteed for them. The causes of gender equality. The prime and first cause of gender inequality, that's poverty. The poverty is the root cause of gender discrimination in the patriarchal Indian society, as the economic dependence of the male counterpart itself causes the gender disparity. The total of 30% of people live below the poverty line, that is 70% of are women. Next is illiteracy, that is also known as the illiteracy is led to the educational backwardness of girls, and it's a reality that dispute of educational reforms in the country. And the patriarchal setup in Indian society, the main dominant societal family life in India. This has been the case that past ages, and men dominates the societal family in India, continues to practice in the majority of households. Next, the social customs and beliefs and practices. To date, a lot of families have preference for the male child and disfavor towards the doctor. Next, the lack of awareness among the women. The most women are unaware of their fundamental rights and capabilities. They lack a basic understanding of how the socio-economic political forces affect them. Next, the laws against the gender discrimination. That is section 125 of CRPC. In 1973, the set out of the concept that maintains of India, as well as different individual laws that extend the right of maintenance not only to the wife but also for the parents and children. Next, the Marriage Amendment Act of 2000. The woman is to be paid the maintenance after her divorce from her husband. It fails as taken as an offense. The Indian Penal Code of 498A, 125 and 406. That the cases were taken for the domestic violence for the maintenance and demand jewelry. This is the order of sections mentioned. And 133 and 143B of Indian Evidence Act. If a woman of committing a suicide after within the 7 years of marriage, the case will be investigated as considering as a murder. We can acquire the gender equality to conquer these problems of gender discrimination. That is gender equality. Gender equality is also known as sexual equality or equality of sexes. That is the state of equal cases of access to resources and opportunities regardless of gender, including economic participation and decision making, and the state value of valuing different behavior, aspirations, needs equally regardless of the gender. Next is elderly abuse and neglect. The elderly abuse and neglect is defined as a single or repeated act of lack of inappropriate action occurring within any relationship, whether there is expectation of trust, which causes harm or distress to an old person. This type of violence constitutes the violation of human rights and including the physical, sexual, psychological, emotional abuse. That is the financial and material abuse, abandonment and neglect, the serious loss of dignity and respect, form of abuses, that is physical abuse, hitting, pushing, kicking, inappropriate use of drugs and restraints, etc. Next, the psychological or emotional abuse, insult, threat, humiliation, controlling behavior, etc. Financial abuse, misusing or stealing of a person's money or assets, and neglect, abandonment, not the providing the food, housing, medical care, and etc. The sexual abuse is the sexual contact without consent. The abusive act in institution, physically restraining patients, depriving them to dignity. The people responsible for the elder levels at homes, family members, mostly the adult children, the spouses, partners, and etc. The healthcare workers, nursing homes, long-term care facilities, etc. And the risk factors for committing elder abuse, the abusing of drugs or alcohols, high stress levels, depression, lack of social support, lack of training in how the care of older people, emotional or financial dependence on older person. How we can able to prevent is that that is the public and professional awareness campaigns, screening of potential victims of abusers, that is school-based intergenerational programs, caregiver support interventions, that is including the stress management, respite care, etc. And next, the residential care policies to define and improve the standard of care, and also the caregiver training programs on the dementia. Therefore, to respond to and prevent the further abuse is mandatory reporting of the abuse to authorities, the safe houses, self-help groups, and emerging shelters, and psychological programs for the abusers, and helplines to provide the information and referrals, caregiver support and interventions. Next, the law against the elderly abuse and neglect. That the first important law is that Parent and Senior Citizen Act of 2007 is a bill that make it legal obligations of a children and legal guardians to provide the maintenance to older adults. It permits the state government to start the maintenance old age homes in each district. The punishment could be paying a fine of 5,000 or 3 months in prison and both. The Parent and Senior Citizen Amendment Bill of 2019, which aims in providing the maintenance and welfare of parent and senior citizens, ensuring their basic needs, safety, security, and establishment, management and regulation of institutions and services, right guaranteed under the Constitution. Next, we can able to discuss about the Article 41, also a article that against the elderly abuse and neglect. Article 41 of Constitution secures the right of senior citizen to employment, education, public assistance, and it ensures the state must uphold this right in the case of disability and age and sickness. The Article 46 asserts the education and economic right in the elderly must protected by the state. Next is the important thing that we keep in mind. That is old age care and protection is our responsibility. The resources used are this. And this is the major reference points that I included in this presentation. Thank you everyone.